Hey, how you doing? Hope you're having a great time right now. I'm currently very satisfied with my life. But anyway, what you're about to see is a video that I made about a year ago for school because basically I had nothing else to do. I had way too much free time. I was already ahead of everybody else. The teachers just said do whatever you want and I'll give you a grade based on that. So I made this video, and in my mind it's one of the best pieces of art that I've ever made. It's a bit weird at times. Some stuff I made up just for the sake of the video, just looking and sounding better because my teacher really doesn't know anything about anime, so I just made half of the shit up at times. But yeah, anyway, yeah, hope you enjoy it. This was at a time where I was kind of figuring out what my editing style should look like and shit like that. So yeah, some transitions and quote unquote animation might look a bit weird, but yeah, hopefully you enjoy it. And yeah, attention. This is just my personal, non-professional thought about a movie that I'm not forcing you to watch. I really suggest that you follow the subtitles that I've edited in, cause they're the better version of my script. Anyway, that's all. Just please don't fall asleep. Please, I beg of you. Have you ever wondered how it feels like not to be able to hear anything? No? Well, how about this? How would you feel like if you had to fit into society with that kind of problem? How would you feel like if you get bullied for that? Well, this movie that I'm going to talk about takes this premise, this idea, and turns it into something that, at least in my eyes, is a masterpiece. So yeah, sit back, relax, get comfortable, get a cup of tea or a beer if that's more of your style, and prepare yourself as we dive into A Silent Voice. Anime. Anime is Japanese animation. Anime has its own style, and you even see some Japanese culture included in a certain anime. Through time, anime evolved quite a lot. To this day, its fan base is quite huge,
A bit weird if I do say so myself.
but it's growing at an immense rate, and hopefully it will keep growing for many years to come. More people watch anime, the industry gets more successful, the more anime can come, the more people watch anime, and the circle continues. Sure, these days we have live action movies with some looking almost as realistic as real life. And sure, we have stuff like highly successful cartoons for kids, but a lot of it is CG animated. And unless Peppa Pig ups its writing and animation, anime is one of the last traditionally animated kinds of animation that is actually good. And it's not just that. Through anime, writers and animators can express themselves in a way that's not possible in Western animation. If you ever watched anime, you probably know what I'm talking about. But if you didn't, you just have to trust me. Now you're probably sitting there sipping on that cup of tea that I recommended and thinking to yourself,
Yeah. Anime is the best thing that God ever created, but what the fuck does it have to do with a silent voice?
basically everything. Though A Silent Voice was originally a manga, it was later adapted to the big screen. That was when it became an anime, and that was when I watched it. The first time I watched it, the animation took all of my concentration because it's just pure eye-gasming material. But the second time I watched it, I really focused on the story and the characters. The movie left me with a whole ton of different emotions and a lot to think about. I guess this is the perfect time to talk about the plot. Since I read the original manga right before I saw the movie, I kinda had high hopes for the story, and the movie does not disappoint. The movie follows our main character, Ishida, who is a young boy that doesn't have a single care in the world. One day, he gets a new classmate, Shoko. She is deaf, so she gets bullied for that, mostly by Ishida. Shoko later leaves school because of this, and we fast forward 5 years later. We see Ishida as this quiet lone wolf who develops this problem that basically makes him quote unquote afraid of everyone. He learns sign language, visits Shoko, and they become friends. They soon become attached to each other and they kinda make up. In this process, Ishida brings back people new and some from the past, and finally, just for a brief moment, Ishida forgave himself for what he did in the past. He just enjoys himself with his friends. But then, the bad things that happened 5 years ago resurface, and in just a single scene, everything that Ishida was working for so hard up till now collapsed. It disappeared. Ironically, the only one not mad with him is Shoko, because she feels bad. She thinks that all of this is her fault for showing up 5 years ago, for basically being alive. Summer break approaches. Ishida tries to forget about that event, so he hangs out with Shoko as much as he can. It works. Even Shoko's mom started liking him. She is the person who probably hated him the most. But Shoko, well, her story is different. She looks happy, but inside she's still corrupted by the guilt that she feels. So much so she attempts suicide. Luckily, Ishida saves her, but at the cost of his own health. He then ends up in a hospital. A lot of time passes and he's in a coma. I guess that what comes next is the magical part of the movie. Shoko feels super bad again and runs to their usual meeting spot. Ishida wakes up from the coma, runs to the exact same spot, and I don't know why, but this is my favorite scene in the whole movie. It takes place at night and it's this really romantic looking interaction between our main characters. Anyways, Ishida cheers up Shoko. He finally says sorry for what he did 5 years ago and accepts it for what it is, for what it was. He also asks Shoko to help him live, like, his life. Because at the start of the movie, Ishida was also suicidal. And at that moment, their relationship snapped deep into a place where it feels comfortable. Up till now, they were two minuses that formed a zero. But now they're a nice pair of a minus and a plus that fit together like two pieces of a puzzle, if that makes any sense. And I guess that's the long story short about the story. It's probably one of the most unique stories that I have seen in a long time. It's very sad and depressing, but at the same time, it's just so full of joy. The whole death thing is executed so perfectly. The movie doesn't just say,
Here's the deaf kid, now she gets bullied.
no, it shows you that kids think that this is weird, that the kids don't fully understand what this condition does for Shoko. Example, if Ishida was living with a relative that also had this same problem, he would understand Shoko's problem and he would probably hang out with her. And this shows how a person can do a complete 1080 and change their personality to an unrecognizable degree. Maybe for the better, maybe for the worse. Finally, it tells a story based on bullying and forgiveness. How forgiving a person can go a long way. Of course, any beautiful lady must be accompanied by a worthy man. This beautiful story is accompanied by this beautiful thing we call animation. The movie does this thing where a part of the story is told through the animation itself. It's not like this has never been done before, but here, this concept is used in a way that suits it so perfectly. Let me explain. Of the interactions between Shoku and Ishida, all of them are done by doing sign language. That's all animated, yet without subtitles. The scenery is also just so gorgeous. Everything moves with a smooth motion, and just like the writers, you can really see the animators express themselves in a way that's just so fucking great. From the lighting to the character movements to the background scenery, every single frame has so much to show and so much to tell to the viewer. That's not to say that this means the sound design department can just go to shit. On the contrary, let me explain. Example, Sword Art Online is an anime from 2012 with a third season coming in 2018. Can't wait, by the way. Its sound design is what I'm going to talk about. The soundtrack on its own has enough praise as it is, but it's the sound we hear out of the opening and the ending credits that's interesting. Every single movement in SAO has its own sound. Most anime and even games use the exact same sound loop for a type of movement of an object. SAO, again, has a different sound for every different movement, if that makes any sense. Back to A Silent Voice, it doesn't do that, not at all. It uses minimalistic sound as much as possible. And usually, this wouldn't be the best thing, but in this case, I honestly think it's perfect. Not only is the sound that's used very pleasant to hear, but again, it's not overloaded with sound effects, because it's a movie about being deaf. Some parts are just some random sounds, but that suits this movie so very well, and it really does give you a great feeling while you're watching the movie. Oh, and I guess the soundtrack is pretty darn good. I mean, it suits the movie pretty good. There's nothing more that has to be said. Just listen to this. All of this is combined into a patiently told story for semi-patient people. It takes its time to tell a beautiful story, with the way of telling it being as equally beautiful. It becomes something that leaves you waiting for more and more. Only after waiting for the credits to roll away, only then you realize that it's over. You start feeling all of these different emotions that are flowing through you. There are butterflies in your stomach. Maybe your heart is pounding like a drum. But even after all of that, you still can't wipe that smug looking smile off of your face. Then you watch it again. It's then when you notice some of the Japanese culture that's casually there, like the feeding carp ritual thing, I guess. And after that, you probably experienced the movie in all of its glory. You probably formed your own opinion on it, and you just can't stop thinking about it for a few days until you fall in love with another thing. For me, it was another anime film called Your Name. Originally, I did want to talk about that movie. Heck, I even wrote the whole script for it. But after reading it, it felt forced and its structure was even worse than this one's. So I rewatched A Silent Voice, probably for the millionth time, and wrote this script, which I'm reading right now. A lot of you may probably hear my voice, but you probably noticed the subtitles that are on this video, and I don't know why I took the extra time to edit them in, but it just feels appropriate to have them there. Anyway, I'm getting too distracted, so I guess it's time for the final word. Every way I look at it, I can't find anything wrong with this movie. In my eyes, it's one of the best pieces of animation that I have ever watched. It has everything that a good anime should have and is the best reason, the best example why anime is my favorite form of entertainment. Honestly, I would recommend it to you, even if you don't watch anime. It's still pretty darn fucking good as a standalone film. But you do need to have patience because this movie does take its time with the storytelling.
Blah 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 blah. From as far as I heard, anime is just pure cruelty, edginess, and fan service slash porn. Yeah, that's what anime is. Blah blah blah.
And sure, yes, you might be thinking that to yourself as you're watching this video, because a lot of people do think that anime is just pure fan service. Sure, some anime does way too much fan service, some anime even revolves around it, but it's films like A Silent Voice that prove that anime can be something beautiful, something great, and dare I say, a form of art. And there it is. I still don't know how this is going to turn out. I hope you all enjoyed it. I definitely enjoyed making this, and yeah, hopefully now you know that I love and why I love A Silent Voice.